NOS. I need NOS. Neri, I need it by tonight.
What's up everybody, welcome back to the NOS channel. Today we have an exciting day. If you're anything like me and you dislike the sound of your C8 Corvette or how quiet it is, and you are cheap and don't want to get off your wallet, then this might be the video for you. I just ordered a set of High Flow Cats. They just came in. So let's unbox these things, check them out, and then let's get to the install. I'm gonna do a quick how-to on everything. Stick around for that. We'll go through how to put them in, and we'll do a decibel test from before and after. We'll see how much louder it is upon cold start. So we'll take a cold start reading of this thing right away here, see what we get for max volume on cold start, let it idle down, and then we'll give it a rev, see what it's like. Then we'll get to the install, then we'll test it again. It'll be cold then, do another cold start with the High Flow Cats. So I'm on a budget. I want my car louder, but I want it to be legal. So have to go for some High Flow Cats. Shopping online, seems like everything is atrociously expensive for anything exhaust related to the C8. But I wanted to keep my valves still functional, so if I do have to be quiet, I can be. So I figured High Flow Cats are gonna be the most cost-effective way. Started looking around, a lot of them are still expensive. Went on some forums and I found out about 2M Fabrications. So if you guys haven't checked them out, I highly suggest getting some of them because I was out the door with gaskets and I even opted for the heat blankets for under $1,000 US. A little more, I'm up in Canada, so it was a bit more for me. With shipping and everything, I think it was $1,300 out the door. But yeah, you can go real cheap, no heat blankets, no gaskets, no nothing, and I think it's like $600 or less, and it wasn't a whole lot more to get the heat blankets. Now, looking at these things so far, blankets come installed, which is cool. I don't want to have to mess around with that. The O2 bung, everything looks pretty well done. So let's get it on, see what they sound like. That's the most important thing, and I want it to be louder. That's what I want. All right, let's do this cold start. I got the decibel meter set up right here. Hopefully we don't scare the Peach, the shop puppy. Out at 82.7 upon cold start. So I have it in track mode, set this down, I'll go and give it a good rev and see what we can get this thing up to max. All right, so revved it right out. Max was 84.1 decibels, average is 64.1. And yeah, not the best. I feel like it's louder than 84.1, but we'll see how we do when we get the new exhaust on. All right, I got a second decibel meter. I want to get a second opinion on this. On a start. Now we will do the rev again, see what we get up to max rev. And 103 decibels. That makes way more sense than what we had before, but we'll continue to use both meters just to be on the safe side for the rest of the recordings for when we have the new Cats installed. We'll use them both. That way we can make sure that, you know, we're seeing something accurate somewhere along the two readings. So first step is we got to remove the trunk liner, which you do by unscrewing those on either side, as well as loosening these off just by hand. Just twist them out. There's more down there, there, and along the back as well. So let's get those off and pull this trunk liner out. All right, so I don't think you have to actually pull the ones off of the back. It's just those 2 plates in the corners and about 4 of those spun on bits. So we have the front of the trunk liner pulled back, and there's this plate with a bazillion screws all the way around it, and that's gonna give us access to the airbox, which we have to remove to get at the cats that are basically behind here that run up to the exhaust there. So we pull that off. We should have enough room in there. Might have to actually get in the trunk, but I don't want to have to take the bumper off. I don't want to have to take the exhaust off like a lot of videos say you have to do. I think we can just pull this out, pull the airbox off, probably pull the heat shields and the braces off just to give us a little bit more wiggle room, and then unbolt the exhaust, pull the cats back into the exhaust. There's a flex pipe at the back side of the cats to where it meets the exhaust. So we should be able to flex it that way, get the bolts out of the front half, then push it back and get it out of the back half off that flex pipe. So let's get this plate off of here. If you don't have one of these, I highly suggest you get one. It'll make this a lot faster. All right, so we got the cover off the back. I also took the cross braces off above the heat shields, so now we should be able to get at the 3 10mm bolts on the heat shields, remove them, and remove the airbox, which is the biggest and most pain in the butt part of this job. So as you can see, we got the back cover off. We got the carpet folded back. You can see right here the flex pipe that we're gonna compress to get the cats out. We gotta get this airbox off. So you undo these bolts here, and these bolts here, and these slide right out. And then there's a bunch of clips on the back side of this, and I already know this because I've taken this out to get at the fill for the DCT for track use. So let's remove the airbox and remove these heat shields. FYI, these bolts that hold the cross members on, it's a T40 bolt. They're all the same, 2 in the front, 2 at the back on both sides. And then you have 1, 2, and 3 up there on the heat shield. Fairly easy to get access to. Ratchet wrench will be handy for that. And I believe they're 10 mils. Same on the other side. We also need to remove the O2 sensors on both sides before they get damaged, and then put those onto the new cats as well. But those are the forward O2s. We need to remove the ones back there on the actual cats themselves, as you can see them right there. So just as I remembered, taking the airbox out is a giant pain in the ass. I even broke sensor this time, so I'm gonna have to sort that out. Might not even be able to get this done today. But yeah, once you get everything unbolted, there's 2 bolts at the bottom of the airbox that hold it in, and then 2 on the front side of it that aim down right there, that bolt into that spot, so you kind of reach down in front of the engine and take those off. And then you unscrew there just to get that off of here. Plus there's a sensor on top here that I had to wait till I could actually get it out. You pop the tab back and you squeeze it and pop it out. Same with this sensor here, slide the red pin out and then squeeze it and it'll come out. There's also all the O2 sensors clip into these little spots, as well as this thing. I broke that one as well, but it can just hang out. And then yeah, like I say, all of these clips and this whole harness clips into the back of it. It's only bolted on by 4 bolts, this whole airbox. You don't have to remove the shields or nothing. But yeah, I don't know what that wire is off the bottom of the airbox, but that one slid right off there, so that's gonna be a problem. Now, if you haven't added your 2 liters to your DCT, that's where you fill it from. As you can see, I also unbolted the heat shields. There's just 3 10mm bolts. This one's kind of tricky to get out because of the fuel line, so I just kind of twisted it out of the way so that we can get at the 3 bolts holding the cat in on this side. And I pulled the heat shield completely out of the other side because there's nothing hindering it or in the way. So yeah, 1 bolt there, 1 bolt there, and then 10mm ratchet wrench really helped to get the other one that's at the front. But again, now we have wide open access to the 1, 2, and underneath is 3 bolts that hold this thing on this side. So now the next step is to take these brackets and unbolt these 2 bolts on that side, these 2 bolts on that side, flip them out of the way, and then proceed to unbolting the cats. Disconnect the O2 sensors from them, and then once you get them out, you can unthread them with an O2 socket wrench. Okay, so that was a lot harder than I expected. I ended up having to take off the other heat shield on the passenger side. I also removed the O2 sensors. It was very tight to get at the bottom bolt under here, hence the removal of the heat shield. It was very tight. Hopefully if yours has got a few less miles on it than mine, it might not be as tight. And then to get them out, you have to pry really aggressively, push this back, separate it here, push it back to get the bolts out on both sides. And then once you have it pushed apart and this part compressed back, then you can pull it out of the top flange that you see here. Again, bottom bolt was very difficult. I had to run a few extensions back to in here, and then I had to put a snipe on it. It was so tight. The rest of them came out fairly easy, and the only other one that was very, very difficult, that took the most amount of time, was the bottom bolt on this bottom flange, trying to get any room to work your hands in and around the side to get it off. Maybe that's why some other people tell you to remove the bumper and get at the exhaust and remove the exhaust first. So now that I've got them off, let's give them away. The factory ones are quite heavy. That ain't right. Factory one is 12.6 pounds for the passenger side, and the driver's side 13.2 pounds. With the O2 bung already installed, this is the passenger side. 6.4 pounds. So we're saving about 6 pounds on that side. And for the driver's side, I already transferred the gasket over. And again, same thing, over 6 pounds. So total of 12 pounds weight savings by swapping these out. And now there should be a ton more room as well to bolt it all in. Look at the size difference, not to mention the horsepower gains. So weight savings, horsepower gains, seems like a win to me. Let's start putting these in. So you do need to save the crush washer from the driver's side factory. It does come with gaskets to mate it to the headers, but you gotta pry that crush washer off of there before you put the new ones in. Also, you have to install the O2 bung, so pay attention to where that faces before you lock it down with the lock nut. You want it to face the intake. Once this goes in, maybe like that, you want that O2 bung facing down into that void there, so you can run from your plug underneath the intake into it. Alright, so I got the headers installed. Much easier going in than it is coming out, that's for damn sure. There's lots of space to work with to actually get them in. You don't have to pry the exhaust nearly as hard. I recommend just tightening up the bracket just to support it. Just gently put these bolts in. Also, the hardware that comes with it, there's no instructions, so the larger bolts with the big washers go for the left side and the tops, and then the small little bag of bolts goes for the passenger bottom connection. Again, you got to reuse your metal gasket in that one, so don't destroy it like I almost did. And then there's two really long bolts, and that is for the driver's side bottom flange connection through there. So first thing I did was connected this brace lightly just to hold it in place. then I connected the bottoms, then I connected the top, and vice versa. Same on this side. And then I connected the O2 sensors back in once everything was bolted up snug. Tighten those up on both sides. And then I put the heat shields back on after everything was tightened up. So now it is time to put the intake back in. So you try to clear space for your wires around where the bolts have to go. There and there. Make sure the wires are out of the way. O2 sensors are connected. And then this will be for your intake manifold. And then these little ones, I'm not sure what they do. One I broke, but it goes literally into nothing on the intake manifold. This one here, I broke it, goes nowhere. This one goes into the intake manifold top, and again, does nothing, goes to nothing. So I'm not really sure what it does. Maybe it's for a future thing, or maybe I'm an idiot, who knows. So, I gotta clear these bolts here for the front bolt. Alright, so off camera, I started this thing up. I haven't got everything bolted back together, but I wanted to kind of give it a test run, see how it sounded. Couldn't wait any longer, but before I buttoned everything up and wasted all that time, I wanted to make sure that it worked. So, I did that. Turns out, I do know what that wire is that I broke. It is for the ambient temp sensor. And with that being broken, the fans went crazy thinking it was crazy hot in the engine bay and was overheating or something. So I shut it down. The fans did not turn off at all. So I had to actually disconnect the battery to get it to turn off. Well, called Chev, and they don't have a listing for that part. I can get the ambient temp sensor. Couldn't get the pigtail for it that actually plugs into it. They said it's part of the entire harness and I'd have to replace the harness. However, they did not have any listings for that said harness, so I couldn't even get that if I tried. So I went to my local parts store to see if we could find something that would fit or that would work, or off of a different model, like a 2020 Buick Encore has the same temp sensor and whatever else, but nothing has a piggyback. We did end up finding something that was really close. I had to shave the sensor plastics down and then file the side of the plug to make it go in and then squeeze it together, and it finally clicked together. So if you are an idiot like me and you break that sensor, good luck trying to fix the pigtail part of it, but you can get this part here. I'll see if I can focus in on it here. So this is the part number of the one that I was able to file and shave and make work. So I don't have it fully back together, but I just tested it. So I took, this is the pigtail that I bought, and I had to shave the black part here down because it was long, almost to the end of the blue type thing, and it couldn't actually connect to the prongs in there. So I shaved the black down to get closer to the prongs, and had to shave the sides of this sensor, or this pigtail, a little bit to make it slide in there, and then crimped it together. So now I can tie those wires back into the original sensor wires here. Right now I just have it twisted together just to see if it worked, and it did. So I'm gonna properly connect these and then retie it all up, tape the entire thing, and put it back in place. So just to recap everything that needs to happen on this project, let's start from the beginning. You're gonna disconnect all of the little spinny pieces that hold the carpet on and the bolts that hold these plates on here. You're gonna pull the carpet back, fold it down, remove all these bolts all the way around to get that cover off. Then you're gonna disconnect these 4 bolts on each side here. Those just slide straight out, pop those out. Then you have to get rid of the air box. There's a bunch of sensors, like the one I broke, that you gotta unclip. And there's another one back here. And then there's the throttle body one up here that has to get disconnected. And then there's your O2 sensors on the back, and one other part that has to get popped off the back. Once those are off, then you undo 2 10mm bolts there, and then 2 on the back on the engine bay side. Down in there on this side, and 1 on the other side. They're pretty easy to see and easy to get at. Once you get the airbox out, that is probably the hardest and most time consuming and pain in the butt part, because you want to go slow and make sure that you don't break anything like I did. After that, you're going to disconnect the exhaust on the bottom and the top on both sides, and there's also a bracket that holds it in place on both sides. Disconnect those, And that's also another very difficult part, is getting at the bottom bolt underneath there. And the left side bolt over there is really hard to get at. And on top, to disconnect these ones, you're gonna wanna remove both these braces that I have yet to re-bolt in. Take off both braces, take off the heat shield with 310mm bolts on either side, and then there is another heat shield on the inside here that you're gonna wanna remove to help get at the bottom side of these bolts. Once you have all that off, oh, I forgot to mention, you obviously gotta disconnect your throttle body boot here. Unscrew that so you can get it off. You're gonna disconnect these lines here as well to pull these out of the way, so that this is out of the way. Pull your heat shields, and then you can pretty much start disassembling the exhaust from there. To get the exhaust out, you're gonna pry in between the flanges towards the trunk to compress that there on both sides, and you really gotta pry on it. You really gotta pry it open and pop those bolts out of there, and then pull it back so that it actually disconnects the bolts from the top, because obviously the headers are stationary. This is your only flex pipe. This is the only amount of movement you got, so it's really quite the pain in the butt. Once those are out, easy enough to put the new exhaust in. You got a lot more space to work with. Not only do you get more space, you're saving weight, gaining horsepower, and instead of using studs like on the factory Cats, where they stick out and you have to try and pry both of those out with mostly stationary exhaust on the rest, the new Cats actually use bolts. So you'll have a smaller bolt that comes with the exhaust, or with the Cats, that goes on the rear passenger side, and then you have two really long bolts that go on the rear driver side, and then there's 10 bolts that are of one other size. 4 of those are for your bracket connections, and the other 6 are for your upper gasket and flange bolts that go to the header. After you got those in, snug them all up, snug them down, put your braces back on, and start reassembly by putting the air box back on, your heat shields, your braces, all your electrical connections. Also, don't forget to swap your O2 sensors over and add the O2 spacers to the new Cats that are provided with them. There is no instructions from 2M Fabrications, so I'm hoping this will help you. But yeah, let's finish buttoning this thing up, and then we'll get a good cold start, tell the difference, do our decibel meter, and see what the difference is actually going to be for sound. That's the biggest key importance. Power is one thing, but I really want this thing to sound better. So let's button the last bit of bracketry up, put everything back together, finish this wiring, screw up that I messed up, and then we will get her fired up. All right, wires are all connected properly, taped up and wrapped up nicely and tucked away from the heat. Braces are bolted back in, cover is put back on, throttle body screw is tightened back up. Just put this carpet up now, and put those in, and all the little screws, ready for a cold start. All right, she's all put back together, carpet's back in, everything's good to go. Let's do a cold start on our original meter, the same meter we did the first time. This decibel meter is garbage. It's saying that was only 78.1 max, when we started with this one, we hit an 84.1 max. So let's switch to the other one and try this again, see if we can beat 103.1. Okay, so with this meter, with a warm start, we were 89.6. So let's see what it does with a warm start this time for max. 89.6 to 94.7. That's considerable improvement. Now let's do it on a rev and see if we can beat that 103.1. 105.6. So 103.1 to 105.6. That is Much better. It sounds way nicer. This is so much better. Way more raspy, way more throaty. Can't wait to take it out on the street right now and really hear what it's gonna do. So stay tuned. Let's go get some rollers. Got some time now. I'm gonna take the car out, get some rollers. And yeah, it's a beautiful evening. Get some nice shots. Go hit up some tunnels. See how it goes. See how this thing sounds. Impressions of the new exhaust from inside the car, definitely much louder. Second gear when you are decelerating sounds really cool. It's got some really nice pops and bangs, so let's give it a pull here.